Well, welcome everybody to this PERG Coffee Break. I'm Harry Box, the PERG manager, and today we're excited to provide a demonstration and discussion of a major new benefit for ESTA members, the Plaid Identity Verification. But before we get started on that, I need to thank our sponsors. These are the companies that are demonstrating their commitment to the rental community, even during these challenging times, by sponsoring all PERG events throughout the year, and without whom events like this one would not be possible. So our sincere thanks to Applied Entertainment and Sports, Airy, Astera, Lightgear, Panavision, and Taylor & Taylor. Quick backstory on how we got here. So a few months ago, PERG Council member Scott Taylor suggested that an identity verification service would be of value to our members, and the PERG Council enthusiastically supported it. And Erin Grabe, the executive director of ESTA, took the ball and ran with it. She found Plaid and negotiated a deal that makes this possible. So thank you, Erin. Having looked at what the system offers, we think that access to a sophisticated identity verification system can give our members a technological advantage that makes a valuable addition to your new customer vetting procedures. Of course, it does not replace your vetting procedures. It makes it significantly easier to verify that the person is who they say they are, and it points out signs that the person may be a fraud. So looking back on some of the rental guard theft reports, we can see that a service like this would have prevented many theft by rental incidents. So let me give you a quick rundown on what we're going to talk about today. In a moment, I'm going to hand it over to Erin for a presentation about Plaid. What is it? Who uses it? What services ESTA has contracted to provide to our members, what tools Plaid provides for fraud detection, what the dashboard looks like, and what the verification process looks like. We have a short 10-minute video where you'll see a few ways that ESTA can customize your Plaid dashboard, and it also shows a demonstration of the verification process. Erin and I can open up our Plaid dashboards and show you results from verifications that we've run and answer any questions you have. So yeah, we'll also tell you about the onboarding process for getting your own Plaid dashboard and what it costs. So with that, I'll hand it over to Erin.
Thank you very much, Harry. I appreciate that. Thanks for the rundown of the agenda and the introduction. And thank you all for being here. My name is Erin Grabe. I'm the Executive Director of ESTA. And as Harry said, Scott Taylor was the catalyst for us investigating potential new member benefit in identity verification to combat fraud and theft, which is plaguing our industry. We investigated a few different platforms that offer identity verification and ultimately settled on Plaid for a number of reasons. Plaid offers a range of services, including financial management APIs, loan approval, and financial solutions. And in addition, and for the reason why we're here today, is their fraud detection and risk management solution in the form of their identity verification platform. So fraud and theft in our sector is absolutely rampant, which is why ESTA created Rental Guard 10 years ago. And Rental Guard has been very successful in many ways, but detecting fraud or risk before a theft occurs is our ultimate goal for ESTA's partnership with Plaid to be able to offer our members access to their identity verification platform solution at an affordable price. Plaid, as I said, has their backbone financial system is in a lot of different apps, and many of the popular apps that some or many of you use currently, or organizations that use their backbone that you may already interface with, are using Plaid's data collection and analysis products. So if you've ever used Venmo or Stripe, Plaid is the financial services backbone of those apps. PaySafe is another one. And PaySafe is actually who ESTA uses as their payment gateway. So if you've ever transacted with ESTA, you've ultimately used the Plaid financial services dashboard, perhaps without even knowing it. Within Plaid's identity verification system, their network is able to check risk factors related to a person's personal device and IP address. It's able to check their phone number and their email. It checks behavioral risks, including stolen identities, and it checks network risk, which analyzes the input behavior of the person performing an identity verification. I've crossed out the bank account information on this slide because as part of the identity verification services, we are not linking to any financial services. So when you contract with ESTA to use Plaid Identity Verification, that information will not, the financial information will not be included. So I've just nixed that. Plaid system is able to detect if a user is using a VPN or Tor to block location and IP address. It checks if a person's phone number and email address are compromised and if they're registered.
Okay. Actually, I think it's on. Sorry, guys.
Feedback coming in here. Thanks. So again, checks if a person's phone number and email address have been compromised, or if those details about their personal data are registered with external accounts, which are good indicators of fraud. It analyzes behavior consistent with fraud rings or internet bots, and it checks the behavior of how the information has been entered or how many times the information has been entered. And we'll go through a little bit more of that later. Plaid's system is built to comply with all applicable privacy laws and regulations. And ESTA is offering the identity verification services through the simplest method, which is through a custom-built dashboard accessed by any web browser. But they also offer coded API access should any of you wish to or are interested in building the identity verification process into your own system or through your own website. To start the identity verification process, the IDV system will check all general data on a person, including their name, phone number, email address, physical address. It uses an authoritative system of data verification to ensure that the person you're doing business with is who they say they are. KYC or Know Your Customer services are very much trending upward in day-to-day business practices, and Plaid is a great tool to ensure you're not dealing with fraudsters or bad actors. The verification through Plaid is fast, and it's checked against regulated standards and accessible data sources. In addition to the general details it collects, ESTA's IDV templates include a verification of documents, such as a driver's license, a state ID, or a passport. Identities within over 200 countries of origin can be verified using Plaid. And the system will check to see that a person's provided ID is not fake, tampered with, or fraudulent. Going one step further to verify the person's identity, our identity verification templates will ask the verifier to take a selfie with their mobile device. It compares and matches liveness to the image on their supplied ID, and it ensures that the person in the selfie is three-dimensional. So a picture is not being held up to the camera to verify the person. So the very person pictured on the ID, you can be assured is the person who's taken the selfie. So in addition to the personal data, the document verification, and the liveness verification, ESTA's templates go one step farther to ensure identity by asking for the last 4 digits of a person's social security number. By taking this extra step, you can make sure that the person you're doing business with is the person that they claim to be. And except for the last 4 of the social security number, all information collected in the IDV process is not dissimilar to the information that you're already collecting on your clients through the course of business. After completing the verification, users can access the details in their dashboard to see what type of risk factors Plaid has identified or may have flagged. The mere fact that rental companies are asking for identity verification could scare off potential bad actors. It was made aware to me that Home Depot recently began using an IDV process for their tool rentals, and they report a 50% reduction in theft of rented gear right off the bat. So ESTA members who sign up for Plaid IDV services for $500 a year, plus the cost of verifications, will get a personalized branded dashboard. They will get company admin access and unlimited support staff access. They'll get dedicated support from ESTA staff for customizing and troubleshooting with the dashboard. Verifications will be billed quarterly, and we're billing them at cost Plaid's direct cost on the verifications will be passed directly to you at cost with no markup. Those verifications run $5 per verification for US identities, $6 per verification for UK and Canadian identities, and $8 per verification for all other countries of origin. As Harry mentioned, we're going to go into a short video done by Plaid that takes a little bit of a deeper dive into the dashboard and shows you some of the features.
So what I'm going to do today is
Can you all hear that?
start out up and running so you can see what it looks like to actually run identity verification in a real working sample. So the first thing I'm going to do is head on over to the Plaid dashboard. And I have identity verification here on the left in my list of products. If you don't, you can request it here from this products page, or talk to your friendly neighborhood Plaid representative who might be able to get it up and running for you quickly. So let me get on back here, and I'm going to open up this panel. Now you notice I have the option to switch between production and sandbox up here. Production obviously runs against real life identity verification data sources, and you can use it to actually identify yourself. In this situation, I'm going to run in sandbox, which is really only used for testing and development purposes, and only verifies the identity of one single person, Leslie Nope, and you'll be seeing a lot more of her later. So I'm going to go ahead and look at all these test templates. I'm going to go ahead and create a new template. Now these templates are basically sort of the flow that you want your user to go through when they're verifying their identity. So I will give it a name. We'll call it car buying sample. I will select our industry, which I guess will count as e-commerce. I'll get back to this autofill data option because it is pretty neat. But for now, let's see, our company name, I'll call it Baby You Can Buy My Car. You'll need to add a privacy policy link. In my case right now, I'm just going to link to Plaid's. AML screening is if you want to screen your customers against various government watch lists to make sure you're staying compliant with all local regulations. I'm not going to add it here, but definitely something you might want to look at. I will keep this checked. And for now, I'm going to ignore this financial account matching. If we were actually going to be, connecting users to various bank accounts, this would be used to help make sure that the identity you get from your user when they go through the IDV process matches what you might retrieve from their bank account when they link to it. On the design flow, we can go ahead and specify a color. I'll go with, I don't know, green. Green's nice. You can add a logo. I'm going to skip that for now. You can sort of specify whether you want your background to be this full green or just neutral. The workflow tab here goes into a little more detail around what your user is going to be expected to do when they verify their identity. I'm going to keep most of these options to the default, although let's look at this template here. So right now, what we're saying is your verification behavior is going to be lightning only. Lightning only is basically a flow where you'll go ahead and fill out some information about yourself, verify your phone number through SMS, and we'll go ahead and make sure that the information that we're able to retrieve from our various data sources matches what the user entered. Just because I want to sort of show you some more options in this demo, I'm going to go ahead and fall back to documentary verification. This means if something doesn't look quite right when I go through the Lightning flow, we'll go ahead and ask the user to upload some ID documents, like driver's license, that sort of thing. Selfie behavior, this is kind of neat. This asks the user to capture a selfie after they've gone through the documentation flow. We'll go ahead and record the user taking a selfie and make sure that this actually does seem like a real person and that the person in the selfie matches the picture that's in the document. In Sandbox, we don't actually do the selfie check. So even if I pick one of these options, I'm not going to see it in this particular flow, which is too bad because it is kind of neat. I'll go ahead and confirm changes. And again, this is set up for all countries. you can go ahead and create new workflows and assign those different workflows to different countries. You know, depending if some countries you feel like you need to set up a different flow, you can go ahead and do that here. I'm going to skip that for now. Rule sets allow me to set up different rules, again, you know, specified for different countries if you'd like. Let's say how closely you would like the information that the user entered to match what's in our records. You know, in our case, you know, we're saying all this has to match exactly and the address has to be pretty close. Or I guess, you know, all this has to match exactly, including their phone number. If the user hits either one of these rules, we can go ahead and say that, yes, their identity has been confirmed. Risk rules allow me to basically specify how much riskiness I want to accept in each of these different categories before perhaps rejecting the user. For example, in email risk, does this look like a throwaway email? Have I seen this email, you know, out on the internet for a while? Those sorts of things. Now, I am going to actually do one thing here, which is I'm going to set my network risk to high. And the reason I'm doing that is network risks looks for things like, is the user attempting to verify their identity multiple times from like, you know, the same device or the same IP address? In my case, because I'm going to be running a demo where I am verifying my user from the same IP address multiple times, I'll actually get rejected probably the second or third time I run this. And I don't want that happening in the middle of this demo. So I'm setting this to high risk for me, but I would probably set this back to medium risk before I launch. Now that all this is done, I'm going to go ahead and click Publish Changes. And I have a template that I'm all set up to use. So now that this is set up, I'm actually going to show you a common way of using identity verification for a lot of customers that are first getting started with it, which is not to integrate it into my app at all. Let's say you flag some customers on your end that maybe seems suspicious, and your customer support team wants to do some work to sort of verify their identity before letting them into your app. What you can do is you can go ahead and click this Create Verification link. And so what this is going to do is this is going to create a link that your customer service team can then send to your customers and say, hey, please fill this out to go ahead and verify your identity. It's sort of a hosted link that we host on behalf of your application. So what you'll probably want to do here is add a customer reference. This could be the internal user ID you use for this customer, something so that you can, tie this in to your own application when the customer is done. So I'll call this, customer 1. We also highly recommend adding an email. And again, this goes back to sort of that risk level I was talking about earlier. We can look at this email that belongs to your customer, and we can look at things like, has this email been used on legitimate sites before? Does it seem like, it belongs to a person? We do generally recommend that you verify this email before adding it in. That's sort of best practice, but if you don't, it's still okay to add it. So I'm going to just add test@example.com, and I'm going to go ahead and create a verification link. And so what you're going to have here is a big link that you can send to your customer and say, hey, go ahead and fill this out to complete the identity verification process. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's open an incognito window, and I'm going to go ahead and pretend like I am this customer and fill this out. So for starters, I'll go ahead and just sort of show you the typical Lightning flow. Again, because we're in sandbox mode, there is only one legitimate user that we are allowed to be, and that is this person, Leslie Note. So I'm going to go ahead and sort of fill out this information as it's displayed here. We will send a verification code to this phone number. I will pretend like I've received it. And I'll go ahead and add in my address. I'll go ahead and provide the last 4 of my social security number. This is something you can configure within the template editor if you'd like. And it looks like we are successfully verified. So I'm going to go ahead and close this page as my user. And then your customer support team can go ahead and look in the Past tab, and it looks like this user has gone ahead and verified their identity, right? And you can go ahead and see a lot more detail about this user. Like they've gone ahead and verified their phone number. And then we've noticed that, their name, their date of birth, their address, all of that matches up with the records that we have based on the verified phone number that that we're able to get. We verified their tax ID number. And then down here is a bunch of risk checks that we've done. We've noticed that, the user is using an incognito window, but we decided that's low risk. We have noticed that this user has tried to verify their identity multiple times from the same device. And, that is a high risk. That's why I had to disable this earlier, because otherwise our IDV attempt probably would have been rejected here. There's a bunch of other stuff it's doing behind the scenes. I'm probably underselling it based on sort of all these risk factors. Under behavior risk, we're looking at, has the user filled out their information in a way that a normal user who's familiar with their data would have? Does this user appear to be part of a fraud ring? Does it look like this is a bot, or is this a user actually filling out this stuff manually? And based on all this, I guess we've decided that this is a verified user and they do not appear to be fraudulent. So there you go. And so now that we've seen what the process looks like, let's actually go ahead and show you what it looks like inside and out. So,
Okay, we're going to pause that there. And I'm going to share my dashboard on the Plaid side. All right, so in that video, he just described how the process takes place. And what you're looking at right now is an example of the dashboard. So for each member company using Plaid's IDV, we'll set up a dashboard that looks very similar to this. We'll be able to add your company admin access, and we'll be able to add all of your support staff to have access. And what we'll be doing as part of the setup for you is creating your identity verification template. So in this case, the ESTA verification template has been created. And as he said, we gave it a name. We linked to ESTA's privacy policy, which we'll go into in a bit. You can choose to attempt to autofill the customer's personally identifiable information through the phone number and date of birth that they provide. You can also choose to have it pre-fill some of the PII when a user clicks the Remember Me profile, which we'll also go into in a bit. We're going to verify the phone number with SMS. We're going to add some branding customizations with color and a logo. And then we're going to add a workflow template for each member. Now, our recommendation is to require both the data source and the document verification, and to always run the selfie check. Now, in the course of your business and the way that you're operating your identity verifications, you could opt to not do any or some of these things. For example, you could opt to fall back to documentary verification if the name, phone number, email address, and physical address don't quite check out. You can opt for the system to fall back to identity to verify the document, or you can opt to run the selfie only when the documentary verification runs. In the case of our members, we're recommending that you keep both the data source and document verification and the selfie check on at all times. The assigned countries, as I said, there's Canada, the UK, and the United States. These are by default a part of the workflow templates that we'll create for you, but you can add other countries and territories. There are over 200 of them, and they are all linked to whatever the document type is in those countries. When you're doing your onboarding with ESTA for your Plaid dashboard, we'll talk about countries that of origin that you may see and need in the daily course of your business, and we can add these countries at the outset. If at some point you need a new country, you get a new customer, let's say from a country you've never had to deal with in the past, you'll just send ESTA support an email and say, hey, I need to add Brazil. We got a rental, and the person who's placing the rental is from Brazil, so we need to add Brazil. it should take only, you know, a couple of hours for us to add that, that country of origin. But we're asking for up to one business day to make sure that we can get that added for you. The rule sets, he kind of went through these a little bit. The IDV system is looking for a full match on first name, last name, date of birth, and national ID. Plaid recommends at least a partial match on the address because they have found that the address is one of the things that people mistype the most. For our purposes, I think since we're going full board with the security route, I think we would, you know, opt for a full match on the address. And then he went through these risk rules a bit. Now, medium risk is going to be default to the template, but in the course of your business, if you would like to take a lower risk or a higher risk on any of these details, we can customize that for you as we're setting up your database. But medium risk is sort of the default, and that's where I think we're going to recommend everybody put their rule sets. And as we use the system more, and as we see verifications come in with, you know, lower risk or higher risk results on some of these details, we can always come back and change your template to increase or decrease your risk on any of these personal things. So I think what we should do now is we're going to switch over to Harry's Plaid dashboard. And the reason we're going to do that is because I, as company admin for ESTA, when I go into a verification that's been run, I get to see all of the personal details that have been supplied by the user. So when they upload their state ID or driver's license, when they input the last four of their social, their phone number, email address, physical address, all of that, I get to see that. When we set up your company admin and or your support staff, you can opt to redact some of that information should you find it necessary. And so Harry's user has ultimately been given a user permission where they cannot see the personally identifiable information, but he can see whether or not the verification passed or failed. So Harry is in his dashboard now, and he's clicked on the identity verification tab on the left. And in the middle, you see there's past. If you click that past above the list there, Harry, down one to the left, left, up. There you go. So this is where he can see whether users have been rejected, passed, whether they're in progress or they've been canceled or they're pending review. So go ahead and, so you've clicked on the top, you're in the past category. So he's run the verification on himself. So click that top one there. Now, on the top, on the right-hand side, you can see the customer reference. So that's the reference that so he'll know who this person was based on that customer reference. But because he can't see the name, the date of birth, phone number, address, or anything like that, it's been redacted for his user permissions. He can still come and see who that user was. So in your own dashboards, what you'll be looking for are the past and failed verifications. And as you scroll through, you can see some of the information that Plaid has checked. It's checked name, date of birth, phone number, address, the last four of the social, all of that matched and passed. Documentary verification, which has been redacted, but it says passed. It matched the name, it matched the ID type. Below that, you'll see the selfie check that was done. Again, that information is redacted, but you are you know, your user permission could be set up to see all of this information. So you'd be able to see a comparison between the selfie that was performed and the photo from the document that was uploaded. And it does the liveness check. So somebody couldn't just, you know, find a photo of you or, you know, your high school yearbook or something and hold it up to the camera and say, this is the person. It's actually checking to make sure that the selfie is 3-dimensional, and it's doing a comparison between the selfie and the photo ID provided. Risk checks, it's doing, you know, it's running a lot of this in the background, the email risk, device risk, phone, stolen identity, etc. And then it's offering you some, in the behavior risk, you'll see behavior, fraud ring, or bot detection. So if you hover over the little eye, Harry, next to the behavior, you'll see that the, oh, don't click it, just hover. Yeah, you'll see that the, it represents 3 possible values: genuine, neutral, and risky. We're still trying to figure out exactly what the difference is between the genuine and neutral. So, but in general, genuine and neutral are both going to be accepted and pass the identity verification. Risky would be one of the red flags for somebody not passing.
I wonder if we just want to let people ask us a question. Do you want to show the non-redacted version?
I mean, the only non-redacted version I have, everybody gets to see my selfie.
Just imagine that. So what this looks like, every place that there's a gray area here obviously would be the person's information. All this would be filled in, and you would see here you would see their license. Here you would see their selfie, and the document is comparing it to, like, all this gets filled in. And the other thing that gets filled in is here. You can see my cursor, right? There would be a bunch of things associated with an email address. And there were, I don't know, there are probably 10 of them for me. It doesn't show it in the redacted version, but there are, you know, all these icons pop up of, you know, all these apps that you're applied to. So you can see that the person, you know, is in fact, you know, active and has been active. And the same here with the phone, what's associated with the phone number. Any questions?
Yeah, this is Stephen from Doffenbach camera. When they were talking about it'll verifying IP address and device ID, do we know, is that something where it's like if they fail with multiple users with that same device ID, IP address, is there some sort of alert that we'd all get or something of that nature? That's the part I was a little confused on.
That's a great question, Stephen. So one of the things, and maybe this is a good time to switch over back to the PowerPoint, because one of the things that we are considering is how we can leverage the information that we're getting out of Plaid with Rental Guard. So we think that the best course of action is to add a checkbox to the questionable information selection choices when users are submitting a questionable customer alert via Rental Guard. And we think that the best course of action is to add fraudulent ID to the options here, so that if you get a verification comes through and it fails, and it fails for a fraudulent ID, you can report that through Rental Guard as a questionable customer. The system is not going to necessarily link together. So your dashboard and somebody else's dashboard, or your dashboard and 10 other people's dashboards who are performing these identity verifications through the Plaid IDV through ESTA, you're not going to see anybody else's verifications performed, and you're not going to get an alert that says, hey, you're trying to run a identity verification on somebody, and this person's already run an identity verification on them and failed. The information that is in the backbone of Plaid and the information that the Plaid system is learning will add to the likelihood that they will fail your identity verification, but it's not going to necessarily be linked. And so if we're leveraging the tools that we have accessible to us, we think that a failed identity verification due to a false ID or fraudulent ID or fake ID would be best reported through Rental Guard as a questionable customer alert. So if you get somebody who fails, you go to Rental Guard and you say questionable customer. We refuse the rental for them because they failed due to false identification. And we feel like that's the best way to build and learn as an industry using the tools that we have together. I mean, you could certainly, get law enforcement involved and report a fake ID being used. I'm not sure exactly how far you're going to get with that. But if Plaid's detecting a fake ID or a fake identity, they're going to fail that check and you're not going to rent to that customer. If they're going to another customer who's using another rental house that's using Plaid IDV, in all likelihood, they're going to fail that check too. So theoretically, this fraudster is just going to get locked out of being able to rent gear fraudulently with the hopes of stealing it. So one of the things that he said in the video, and I showed you in the template setup, is that every user of the system must have a privacy statement. If you go to ESTA.org, if you go to ESTA's homepage, at the very bottom of the screen, you'll see ESTA's privacy policy, which has been in place for a number of years. It might need a little bit of updating, but it is in place. In order to use the Plaid identity verification system, everybody must have their own privacy policy. And the place where you should start your privacy policy statement and your own privacy policy is with your lawyer. Your lawyer is going to be best suited to help develop a privacy policy that works for you and your company and the information and data that you are personally collecting on your website. If you don't want to go that route or can't go that route for some reason, there are some online tools available. For example, privacypolicygenerator.info. This is a website where you can go and within 4 or 5 minutes, you give it some info about data that you're collecting on your website, and it will give you sort of a turnkey privacy statement that you can use to protect yourself and put onto your website. On that website, you can also opt to upgrade for the paid services, and those paid services will add further protections based on certain other data maybe that you're collecting or other privacy regulations that you need to be adhering to. And then you would post that policy to your website and send us the link that we can use for onboarding and creating your dashboard. So Stephen, I appreciate that comment and question. Are there any other comments or question at this time? So Scott just posted a comment, and I'd like to read that aloud for everybody in case you're not moderating the chats on your own. But he says, simply letting customers know you will be running a verification check should drive the bad actors away. And I think he is absolutely spot on with that. And I think that that is part of the success that Home Depot's had just by implementing an identity verification process into their rental business. They've eliminated 54% or reduced their rented not returned thefts by 54%. And I think that that is a very powerful statement. And I'm sorry I interrupted somebody who piped up. What's your question?
That was I. No, I apologize for interrupting you. Mutual apologies. You'd answered the question regarding the verification timetable, 2 to 4 minutes. And I was curious as far as the overall process, and maybe it is 2 to 4 minutes, but how long does it typically take a user who is introduced to Plaid Identity Verification from start to finish, including the verification process?
So when I ran it on myself, it took me 5.5 minutes to do it from start to finish. So
Super.
I'm gonna go back and show you, because I don't think that we did. I'm gonna show you the Plaid dashboard. Here we go. Okay, so when you're in your dashboard, you're going to click this create verification button. Once your dashboard has been set up and your template's been created, you've got a new customer who's come to you and they want to rent some gear. You're going to come in here, you're going to hit create verification. You're going to enter whatever the customer reference is. It says optional here. I highly advise that people use this for keeping track. This could be your quote number, your rental number, your order number, the PO number, the customer's name. It could be the person's name who you're verifying. Nobody on the outside is going to see this customer reference, only the people on the inside. And then you're going to add the person's email address like that. And you're going to click create verification link. And it's going to pop up and it's going to give you this link right here. You copy that. Now, there's 2 ways that you can deliver this link to your customer. If you deliver it via email, the person's going to click on the link in their email and they're going to be shown something that looks very much like this. On their web browser, they're going to be seeing this thing. It looks like a mobile image, but this is essentially what they're going to see on their web browser. This is where they'll be able to click your privacy policy that we've put in. They'll hit continue. They're going to say, it's going to ask where they live. They're going to hit continue. They're going to pick a phone, enter their phone number. It's going to send the verification code. They'll be asked to re-input that verification code. It'll ask their first name and last name. And then they'll input the verification code here. I can get past this without doing it. It'll ask their date of birth. It'll ask their home address. So as long as it takes them to fill out this information is how long it's taken to this point. Last 4 of the social. And then it's going to say, we need a picture of your ID. What type of ID are you uploading? And if they choose driver's license, let's say, it will then, at this point, if they've clicked the link on a web browser, on a computer, it will serve up an image of a QR code, or it will serve up a link where they can send this link to their mobile device. So essentially, even if they start the process on a computer, it's going to kick it back to their mobile device automatically through the process at some point when it comes to uploading of the front of their ID and the back of their ID and taking the selfie. From that point, when they scan the QR code or they click the link that says send this to my mobile device, it will ask them, take a picture of the front of your ID, take a picture of the back of your ID. And if they haven't closed their web browser, it will actually show them what part of the process they're in. It will say front of ID captured, back of ID captured, selfie taken. And ultimately, they'll end on their mobile device. Now, if you want to, wish to send that link directly to their mobile device, as opposed to via email, you can. I know there are some companies out there who already have SMS messaging services as part of the course of their business. I have found an SMS messaging service that we can add to your Plaid dashboard if you so wish. There will be an extra cost of $5 per month to use the SMS platform that we found. But through the SMS platform that we found, what you'll do is you'll create this link. You'll gather this link right here. You or your customer service team will go into their personal email client or their work email client, and they'll send an email to the person's phone number that you wish to receive the link at textmagic.com. So that's the service I found. It's called TextMagic. Everybody's free to go and open up their own account with TextMagic. It will create, you can apply for a toll-free number that's used to back and forth with the SMS. So you'll go into your email, you'll put the person's phone number at textmagic.com, and you'll drop the link into the body of an email. No subject necessary, no signature necessary, and TextMagic will send that link to the person's mobile device, and they'll be able to complete the whole process on their mobile device. So if somebody doesn't have email on their phone, or they're in a spotty cell phone service area and opening their email programs is difficult, or perhaps you just want to make it a little easier for them instead of going back and forth between the web browser and the mobile device, you can send the link directly to their mobile device and they can complete the process. And really, it's just as, it takes as long as it does to enter that personal information, which should be coming from the top of your head, right? It shouldn't be, and that's one of the things that Plaid is looking at is how long did it take somebody to enter their address? Their address is something that they should know off the top of their head, but it took them, a minute and a half or 3 minutes or 7 minutes to enter the address because they were rifling through PDFs or web tabs or whatever to find a fraudulent address. So it might have taken them longer, and they're going to get a higher risk factor on how long it took. The longest part for me personally was going and getting my ID from the other room and coming back and scanning the front and scanning the back. And it took me 5.5 minutes from the moment that I received the link.
Great. Thank you, Erin.
My pleasure.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
This is Dan at Eastside Camera. If we send this to our client and they're going through the verification identity process, is there a way we can integrate our paperwork into that? Like load a PDF of our rental contract so that it's all one stop for them?
Not necessarily. If you were to do that, you would have to use the Plaid API. And we can assist you with getting an API built in to your system. So if there's a rental contract or something that's coming out of your system, we can integrate the identity verification process into your currently existing process. But you cannot put your process into the identity verification process as built. Sally is asking about the privacy policy. She says, we do not do commerce on our website, nor do we collect any private info via the website. By adopting Plaid, will we have to change the privacy policy we have in place? It isn't through the website, so how does the privacy policy apply? So the privacy policy, as I said, is something that every company who has an online presence should have. And if you're not collecting any personally identifiable information on your website, then your privacy policy could simply be, we do not collect personally identifiable information on our website. We do not sell any data that we might collect, and we do not use the data for any nefarious purposes. That could be the extent of your privacy policy. By using Plaid, no, you will not have to change your privacy policy, because you are then covered under the privacy policy, because those people who are running the verifications are giving Plaid the personally identifiable information. And as long as you are not selling it or doing anything with it, and as long as your privacy policy says any information we do collect, we're not selling or distributing without your consent, then your privacy policy would be covered. Scott Taylor says, I believe once the customer enters the information into Plaid, they can submit that information to multiple vendors. So yes, as the person who's running the verification goes through the process, towards the end of that process, it will ask if they would like to be remembered. It will say, remember me, little checkbox. I know we've all seen them online. And if this person is, a producer who does multiple rentals with different companies all year long, they can check the remember me box, and then their personal information will automatically populate much of their information, not all of it, but much of their information will pre-populate as they're going through the identity verification at a new company that's also using Plaid. Okay, we're at the 55-minute mark out of a 60-minute call. What other questions do we have or can we answer?
Erin, I have a question. This
Sure.
is Lori from SoCal Rentals. The verification process that they're doing, is it just verifying like who I am as a person? Or would it also like associate me with my company, SoCal Rentals, that say I'm saying I belong to SoCal Rentals and I want to rent?
That's a very good question. It is identifying the person that you are doing business with. So it is not necessarily associated with the company. For example, when I ran the verification on myself using ESTA's physical address and my office number and my ESTA email address, I did not pass because that is not who the internet and the world of identity think I am. So the people running the verifications, they are verifying their personal information.
Okay, thank you.
Dan's asking about the cost for the service. So anybody out there, any business out there is free to contract the same service with Plaid. And it costs about 12,000. Scott just posted that in the chat. So you can go to Plaid and you can opt for your own contract with them for identity verification services. And it's about $12,000 annually plus the cost of the verifications. But by leveraging as an association, we're able to contract with Plaid and act as a reseller. And we're able to offer it to all of our members for $500 per year, plus the cost of those verifications.
The verification, the $5 per check, is that is that all added up and you get a monthly bill, or how does that work?
So, I mean, this is all new to us. What we thought we might do is do it quarterly. I suppose if you're running hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of checks or something like that, you know, we may go to a monthly. But ESTA will be getting a report on the usage for each user or each company that's been set up with a dashboard. And we're thinking quarterly sounds like a better, more realistic option for billing the verifications. If you would prefer monthly, we could certainly do monthly. If you would prefer, you know, I mean, really, I guess it's up to you. If you would prefer some other cadence, we can work with you on that. And Bridget asked, do you recommend this be used for all customers or only new customers? That's going to be up to you and your business practices. You know, ESTA isn't necessarily going to tell you how to run your business or which customers to do business with. And I guess if it were me and I knew this person and they've done business with me all the time, I'm not going to ask them to do an identity verification. I already know them. They've already set up a line of credit with me, or, you know, whatever the case may be. I've run their company's references and things like that. I'm not going to run an identity verification on them. But if it's an absolutely brand new person I've never heard from and they're calling on Thursday night and want, you know, $100,000 package on Friday morning, yeah, I'm probably going to ask them to do an identity verification. And, you know, even if everything goes out the door and comes back just fine, I may still ask that person to do another identity check if they come back, you know, a second time. But, you know, through the course of your business, you'll know, you know, who the good actors are. And not that the verification process is horribly inconvenient, but you're not going to spend $5 running a verification on the same person over and over. So I would say in general, it's for new customers or people that you might get a feeling about. iPhone 223 asks everybody, sorry if this is a dumb question, but does it only work on individuals with US issued driver's license? The answer to that is no. It does work on driver's licenses or foreign issued documents. Standard with the template are US identities, UK identities, and Canadian identities. But Plaid does have built-in modules for over 200 other countries of origin. So in the course of building your template, we will have US, UK, and Canada automatically applied. And then if you have customers that you do business with regularly, let's say from Mexico and from France and from Brazil, we will add all 3 of those countries to your workflow. And then if you get another rental request or something from some other country that you've not traditionally done business with, you can send us an email and we can add that country of origin to your dashboard, and we'll do that within 1 business day.
Erin, if you have to add any other countries, is that more money or is that still the same cost?
Nope, all the same cost. Yeah. So the service will be $500 whether you have 3 countries or 200 countries in your workflow. The other countries, the only additional expense would be that the other countries are a slight amount higher on the per verification cost. So US identities are $5 a piece. UK and Canada are $6 a piece. Any other country that's available in your workflow through Plaid will be $8 per verification. But no, if you need to add a country of origin, or if you need to modify your workflow and your template a bit because you don't like the way that the results are being served up to you, and you think you want like a lower risk or a higher risk on a personal detail, you can just call us, email us, and we can modify your workflow and your template. And there's no additional cost, just the $500 per year. We will have a sign-up form available on our website, and the Plaid webpage on PERG's website is esta.org/Plaid. There will be a sign-up form. We will have to send you a personalized link. So if you are interested in signing up for Plaid, you can email plaid@esta.org and give us your company name and your Plaid dashboard admin first name, last name, and email address. And we'll send you the personalized link where you'll enter some information, including, well, it'll check to be sure whether you're already an ESTA member, because this is an ESTA member benefit. So you do have to be an ESTA member to participate. But on that sign-up form, you'll also enter, and we're not going to hold you to this, it's more just for our data collection, but your estimated number of verifications per month, the countries of origin that you expect to use, the number of support staff emails that you might need to set up and have access to your dashboard. And then there will also be a user agreement. Part of that user agreement is a flow down of terms from Plaid that we had to agree to as ESTA, as the association, that have to flow down to each end client. But then we'll send you that PDF. It's pretty short and simple, and you'll sign that, and you'll and we'll reach out to you. We'll be able to set your dashboard up, I would say, within 7 to 10 days of receiving your sign up information. We'll reach out to you to schedule an onboarding and setup of your dashboard. And we can certainly do, you know, additional trainings on support staff, particularly if you have to add new support staff.
Erin, this is Sally. Would there be any violation of Plaid policy if someone were to fail an identity check and we were to share their image from their selfie check with PERG on PERG Slack or on Rental Guard?
I would check with my lawyer about that. I don't think that ESTA has the bandwidth to answer that properly, or the authority to answer that properly. I would say probably not, because I guess that, you know, there's a lot of different things that could be going on there. Did they just steal somebody else's ID and are passing themselves off as that? And now we're going to put this, you know, completely innocent person's image up on the internet and say this, you know, somebody else is pretending to be this person. Like, that gets into some iffy territory. I would say talk with your lawyer about what information you're collecting from Plaid that you can share out, which is why I think that going the route of the questionable customer alert is probably the best option we have for integrating the data as best we can with the tools. Because in the questionable customer alert, you can say, this person claims to be this name, and we ran an identity verification check, and Plaid says that their ID is fraudulent and doesn't match. And I think that's about all we can legally share at the moment. And we're going to keep investigating ways to improve the tool and ways to improve the integration between Rental Guard and Plaid. But I personally wouldn't advise posting pictures of IDs, because we don't know if that ID is an innocent person whose wallet was stolen, you know?
Erin, for the $500 annual price, is there a cutoff time for that? Or if I decide I can't, we can't sign up today, but I want to sign up 6 months from now, will we still get that price?
Absolutely.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, we won't be raising the price at all unless we get a significant cost increase from Plaid at some point in the future. So for right now, I can say that the sign-up price of $500 is good from now until next February 11th. February 11th, 2026, anytime in that period, I can guarantee the pricing. If Plaid comes back to us with a cost increase on the next annual renewal, then we may have to consider additional cost increase based on that. But I don't foresee it being great or frequent. Thank you all very much for being here. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your attention. Harry popped the email address into the chat. It's plaid@esta.org. That email reflector is currently being delivered to both Harry and me. And so we will be able to field any questions that come in there or any requests that we get up for a sign up of the service. And we can start signing people up right away. The 7 to 10 day factor is mostly going to be with, being able to squeeze in the onboarding and dashboard creation into our own schedules. So, but it doesn't take very long. I've run beta testing with 2 other companies, and, we could probably get you set up with a dashboard that's up and functional within an hour or so. So thank you everybody for being here.
Thanks everyone for
Fantastic.
attending.
Thank you.
Take care.